disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. And let's dive into this whole Trump controversy over E. Jean Carroll and the whole rape trial case, civil suit, whatever you call it. Because I know I've been kind of blowing it off and not really mentioning about it because, frankly, it just seemed like it was a setup, if you will. And I'm not saying this to discredit rape victims, nor am I saying this to protect Trump, because as anyone knows me, I am no favor of Trump. I am not an endorser of him. I am probably one of the OG despisers of him. But as a principled stance and considering all the action surrounding this, it does seem suspicious that this trial would come about right in the midst of the election season, right in the midst of him announcing presidency, and right after the midst of failing to prosecute him during January 6th, failing to hold him on trial for other things. So it just seems like it seemed like a nothing burger at the time, and I felt like there was more other things to talk about. But I feel like it is due diligence that I do have to mention this. So, especially with this coming out. So this is an article that was released on Forbes, and I know it doesn't look like Forbes magazine because I had to change it up to bypass the paywall. Because, you know, free press and information can only be at the swipe of a credit card, looks like, and only in the United States, being Canadian. But this seems very interesting from a Forbes article here. And a lot of people are mentioning about this. And this is one of the things, again, I mentioned why this seems suspicious, why this seems like a nothing burger. And no, this is, again, not to protect Trump in any way or not to discredit actual abuse victims and sexual assault victims, not to discredit any of that. But look at this. Look at this article. Statute of limitations on sexual assault eliminated for 1 year in New York following passage of the Adult Survivors Act. With Governor Hochul's, I don't know how to pronounce that, signing yesterday the Adult Survivors Act, the ASA, New York has taken a monumental step towards providing an avenue for victims for sexual abuse to seek legal resource against their perpetrators and employers that were previously time-barred due to statute of limitations. For 1 year, though. Because that's how much they're willing to protect sexual assault victims. Only 1 year. And surprisingly, it happens to be the year that the election's coming up next year. Donald Trump just announced he's rerunning. And here comes E. G. Carroll in this situation. So again, at a principled stance, it seems very suspicious of all this. And here's also another thing to point out. This is a tweet from DC Drano. And he says, did you know the statute of limitations for sexual assault in New York is typically 5 to 7 years? New York has a 20-year period for civil claims of sexual assault. But wasn't enough to get Trump. Jean Carroll's claims go back to the mid-90s. So what he's saying is that there was a system in place that Jean Carroll could have prosecuted Trump before he ran for president, before he got into politics. There was that possibility. So it's not a monumental step that all of a sudden now we're seeing a time period, a little legal time period, a legal loophole to say this is a monumental step that now we're going to prosecute Trump for this. There was a way to do it. So New York amended the law in 2022 to provide unlimited statute of limitations for civil claims of sexual assault and provide a 1-year window where pre-existing claims could be legitimate. That's where Jean Carroll comes in. Funded by a Democrat activist, she filed her claim against Trump in the limited window, and even a liberal New York jury wouldn't find Trump liable for rape. People paying attention know what this is truly about. Another political attack to try to harm Trump before the 2024 election. So that's where this comes in. This is why I wanted to cover this. Is because we know that the establishment, even outside of Trump, the establishment, if they deem someone, if Bernie Sanders, went against the establishment like he claimed to do in his campaign but hasn't, if Tulsi Gabbard was still in politics, if they would do the same to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., anyone who they deem a threat to the tyrannical establishment, they will do anything to try to take them down. Chuck Schumer even said on MSNBC, right to the president who's the commander-in-chief serving, that he has 9 ways to Sunday. The CIA, the intelligence community, and the other establishment apparatus has 9 ways to Sunday to take the president down. That is what they're doing with this. The same with the FBI raiding Mar-a-Lago to find classified documents. The same as all the January 6th trials. It is finding anything to try to get away President Donald Trump. Why? Because Trump, even though he's a buffoon of a game show host and does cater to the establishment to a bit, and a billionaire bigot himself, he is a threat to the establishment. And they will do anything, 9 ways to Sunday, to take any threats to the establishment away from the table. And they would have done the same thing if this was Tulsi Gabbard, if this was, Bernie Sanders, if he actually had a spine. They would have done the same thing. They would have done the same thing to AOC if she didn't cower towards Nancy Pelosi. This is how they delegitimize people who are actually running for the people and try to slash them out of the political hemisphere to put in more establishment tropes. This is how they do it. This is a purely political attack. Because I don't think New York, if they actually cared about the women of sexual abuse, if they really cared about the survivors, why would they only have this law intact for a year? Why would there be such a limited window for this to come about? And why would they not bring up in all the media coverage about this, the situation with Joe Biden and Tara Reid? Why would they not bring that up? What about Juanita from the Bill Clinton years? Why are they not bringing that up in this situation? We have many presidential figures that are accused of rape. Do they ever get mentioned about that? No. But they're going to bring out Donald Trump 24/7, 7 days a week, and continue this on. So again, this is not to defend Trump. This is not to discredit people of sexual abuse and rape victims. This is about the principle of all this. And the principle is that this is an entire political attack on Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is somewhat a threat to the establishment. So here's this, for example, because she was featured on CNN. This is Jean Carroll on the right here, and then her friend on the left there. And they were mentioned on CNN, and they mentioned about this law that's being attacked. And listen to what they have to say about this 1 year window. This 1 year window that is allowing women to actually speak out. Only 1 year. And surprisingly, all the focus is on her. Because this is definitely not a politicized movement. This is about helping all the victims. But take a listen to this.
On something that I think is really important in all of this, and it's the fact that New York passed this law.
Yeah.
The Adult Survivors Act. They passed it just a few years ago. Were it not for that law, you never would have been able to bring this case. And I just think it speaks.
Few years ago, Because I didn't even hear about this till now. A few years ago? Or is this more to the story?
To the importance for a lot of other survivors.
Exactly. I would never have this window, this year of having the ability to bring a lawsuit for rape. Robbie can explain it better.
Well, EJ actually helped to get that law passed. It passed last year. We filed, it was Thanksgiving Day, it was the first day you could sue. We filed just after midnight on Thanksgiving.
So, you just heard her. It passed literally last year. Last year till this year. Exactly 1 year. And they're calling this a monumental law. But what, again, if there was truly a principled stance on this, why is it only 1 year? Why is it only 1 year? Why is it only a select few months that they're allowing sexual assault or rape victims to come forward in that time period? If they really cared about, women and Me Too and that whole stance, why wouldn't this not just be enacted as a law? Why is it only a certain time period? Again, right before an election.
Thanksgiving. And there are a lot of other women throughout the state and hopefully throughout this country that they will get other laws like this passed in other states. And New York women should use this law while it's still around, which is until next Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because there's a reason women stay silent.
And on something that
Yes, we want to help the women out there who have been abused and had enough of this, but you only have till 5 o'clock to file the paperwork. Do you see how absurd this is? Like, this is literally an insult to victims. To say that you only have a certain amount of time for you to step forward, otherwise we're not going to take your case. This is the opposite of what the whole Me Too movement was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about allowing women to come forward at any given point or time and defending themselves against predators, against people that have raped them. That's the whole point of this. But now you're saying, you only have a certain time frame, but it's so monumental that New York is the state that's allowing this to happen, and maybe it'll happen in other states, but only for a certain amount of time. So call now. Sounds like a QVC ad, literally. It sounds like something on the Home Shopping Network. Like, call now, because we can't do this all day. Call now and discuss your civil claims of assault while there's still a legal process in mind. Jesus. And let me just go back to the article here from Forbes, because this is where it gets really interesting. So, the governor signing yesterday the Adult Survivors Act. New York has taken a monumental step forward, providing an avenue for victims of sexual abuse to seek legal recourse against the perpetrators and employers that were previously time-barred due to statute of limitations and or notice of claims or requirements. The Adult Survivors Act, sponsored by State Senator Brad Holm and Ambassador Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal, provides a 1-year look-back window for survivors of sexual assault to assert their claims. Advocates say that the previous sexual assault laws did not align with how victims process their trauma. Many fear retaliation, violence, or being made a pariah. You mean how people treated Tara Reid when she came forward? You mean how people interrogated Monica Lewinsky when she came forward? Again, because we care so much about women. This is not a bit about policy. This is not about politics. We're not trying to politicize this. This is definitely not partisan whatsoever. That's why we called Tara Reid a liar and slammed her down and saying that she was discredited. But this random person at the nick of time when this law came about, all the media attention is on her. Everyone's clapping and applauding and saying, "Oh my God, move forward." Because, not about politics. Some don't even realize that they were assaulted until many years later. the ASA gives survivors a chance to file timely claims that would have otherwise been barred by statutes of limitations and or notice requirements. Also, because of the recent passage of the Federal Ending Forced Arbitration of Sexual Assault and Sexual Harassment Act of 2021, these claims will be able to be filed in court. As a result of the ASA, survivors will be provided a 1-year window that commences 6 months from their effective date of the ASA to assert previously time-barred claims related to a sexual assault offense. It will therefore give survivors until approximately November of 2023 to file their claims. So literally months from now. Literally months from now, because they care so much about women. They care so much about women that they're only giving a few months for them to file a notice. This is literally an insult to the victims. And these people, these, the Democrats and the liberal lefties and the boutique lefties, they're running around saying that they're championing this, that this is some sort of monumentous movement, that this is going to be a benefit to women. A benefit to women for only a certain amount of time. And then afterwards, we're just going to go back to normal and, there's going to be perpetrators and we're just not going to care anymore. We're not going to care about Biden's victims or Bill Clinton's victims or any other victims of the Democratic Party and other victims of corporations. We're not going to care about Jeffrey Epstein. We're not going to care about Ghislaine Maxwell. We're not going to talk about Prince Andrew. We're not going to talk about any of that or Bill Gates and his relationship with Epstein. We're not going to mention any of that. But in this moment of time, it's such a monumentous occasion that this woman is championing for 1 year this monumentous law. Because we care so much about the women, and this is not about politics. So they say. The ASA additionally grants trial preference to such actions and directs the chief administrator of the courts to promulgate rules that enable the revived actions to be adjudicated in a timely manner. The ASA applies to approximately 20 crimes that are set forth in the New York penal laws sections on sex crimes, as well as crimes of incest. Such crimes include forcible touching, sexual abuse, and rape. But only till November of 2023. And that's why this is so absurd. That's why this seems so suspicious. And again, considering the fact that Donald Trump is seeking presidency once again, 2024, that all this is coming about and every single political figure of the establishment is on board with this. And the fact that there was no attention to the fact that this law meaninglessly just passed without any notice, without any notification, without any suspicion whatsoever, and then all of a sudden this woman comes about, claims that Donald Trump raped her 30 plus years ago in a department store, and here we go. And all the media attention's on her. No mention about any other abuse victim. Because I thought we were supposed to care about women. At least that was my understanding. That's why I was behind Me Too. But that's what happens when you have establishment co-opted inside these movements. The same with Black Lives Matter, the same with Me Too, the same with the LGBTQ. The minute the corporate estate and establishment politics intertwine with that, it screws it all up completely. Because it used to actually have meaning. Black Lives Matter used to have meaning. Me Too used to have meaning. The LGBTQ plus used to have meaning. Now it's just a corporate sludge conglomerate to try to make themselves woke and trying to make themselves feel like they're inclusive and hip with the generations. But they really don't care. And here's where this is, I have to bring this up because just of pointing out the obvious hypocrisy. Because this is from Tara Reid. This is Biden's rape victim. And she came forward with her story. And they discredited her. They called her a liar. They called her unfaithful, unruly. How dare she do something like that? And one of the biggest things, no joke, one of the biggest reasons they discredited her, because this is not about politics, it's about the women and all this stuff. One of the things they discredited her on was she has a neutral stance. I kid you not. She has a neutral, non-political stance when it comes to Vladimir Putin. They literally asked her about that. She said she had no favorability, no dislike, no like for the guy. I'm completely neutral, nonpartisan, no agenda, no political stance on Vladimir Putin. And that's when they just started to discredit her story, because they care so much about the women. They care so much about sexual assault and the survivors. It's about the survivors. And she points out, Roberta Kaplan, remember last year when you resigned from Time's Up in disgrace for discrediting Cuomo survivors? That's former Governor Andrew Cuomo. You are not a Me Too hero. You are a partisan hypocrite. You know what Biden did to me, and that he is guilty. That makes you complicit with rape. And that is coming from a survivor herself. And that is why this is obviously a political attack on Donald Trump and discrediting the entire purpose of Me Too, the entire purpose of having these legal obligations to sexual assault victims. This defeats the entire movement and the entire statute of prosecuting predators. You are discrediting the entire movement by doing this, because you have gone completely complicit with politics. You're aiding to the rape victims. You're aiding to the problem by doing this. Because you're discrediting people like Tara Reade. You're discrediting all the people that Andrew Cuomo has assaulted and made them victims. You're not mentioning about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell or Prince Andrew or Bill Gates or anybody else on that list. You're completely not mentioning about Bill Clinton and all of his survivors. There's thousands upon thousands of survivors. And you only gave them a few months to allow them to speak out. And only on your choosing. And you expect me to believe that New York actually cares about these women. You expect me to believe that this is about real, truth-based sexual assault claims. And this has nothing to do with the fact that Trump is running for president and Trump may be a threat to the establishment. And like I said, doesn't matter if it was him, if it was Bernie Sanders, if it was Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if it was anyone who is deemed a threat to the establishment, they will find a way to cultivate whatever they can do to try to discredit you, to silence you, and get you off. And that is what they are doing. That's what they're doing with Donald Trump. That's what they're continuing to do with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from not even acknowledging him by saying he still saying that he's some sort of anti-health supervillain, and other people who are speaking out against the establishment, including her. Tara Reade was very vocal about the Ukraine-Russia war. That's why she said she has no political stance when it came to Vladimir Putin. That's what made her get discredited, and they called her a liar. So why are they not? So why are they not bringing this up then? Why is CNN not bringing this up and saying that, hey, maybe Tara Reade should file these claims then in New York because they just passed this monumental law for only a few months? Or how about this? Pat Socialism Saves Lives says, pretty cool how Democrats cheer the Jean Carroll decision, but they don't think Tara Reade is credible. They don't see the irony either. Because that's what happens when a actual situation, when an actual movement that's supposed to help people gets completely co-opted with policy, when it gets co-opted with politics, when it gets co-opted with the establishment, when it gets co-opted with corporations. It completely discredits the meaning. That's what happens. That's what happened with Black Lives Matter. That's what's happening with Me Too. That's what's happening with all of them. It loses meaning the minute the establishment decides to take over. Because now they're the arbiters. They're the ones to decide whether it's credible or not. Not us. Not the victims. The victims get thrown under the bus even more when the establishment gets involved. Because all this is just more politicized hokum. Complete, absolute atrocity to real people that have been assaulted. Real people that have been victimized and been silenced. And really, it's just a joke, the fact that they're applauding that you only have a few months that New York just radically made this law happen. And it's such a monumentous occasion that you only have a few months to file a claim. And then maybe we'll look at it. Maybe. But right now, we're too focused on the fact that a random writer who was hired by Democratic activists and getting funding by a Democratic hedge fund is prosecuting a former president. Because this has nothing to do with politics. That's why this is such a sham. That's why I never covered it till now. But I just want to let people know how much of a waste and how much of an absurdity it is to the actual point of Me Too, the actual point of letting women speak, the actual point of all this. Because if they really cared about women, she would be the one on CNN. She would be the one going on and speaking on the behalf of survivors. Why wouldn't Jean Carroll also invite Tara Reade and mention all the other women that have been inappropriately touched and raped and groped at? Because it's not about women. It's about politics. That's how they want it to be.